Tonight, a celestial spectacular leaves locals wondering what was the Friday fireball. And the parade through Whyalla kicks off NAIDOC Week celebrations.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening, but first tonight, not even a week after it was announced the Alesco Learning Centre in Broken Hill will soon close its doors, there could be plans to open a new alternative school in the Silver City. The CEO of Robinson College says while the focus is on saving the centre, it's an option that could be explored in the future.
Tracy Dottie-Mead had only just come in as the CEO of Robinson College 8 weeks ago. She said it was greatly disappointing the decision had to be made to close Alesco Learning Centre Far West. The decision to close came after the centre struggled to comply with numerous compliance requirements from the New South Wales Education Standards Authority.
I would argue that it's very difficult. It's such a unique school, Alesco Far West Learning Centre. It has a unique cohort. It's not a regular mainstream school. So I believe it's very difficult to abide by the checklists that they require.
The Robinson Education Centre Board decided to close the centre before the Standards Authority could, to protect the neighbouring Robinson College.
If NESA come in and close it, the implications for Robinson College, the board, myself as the CEO, because we're fit and responsible persons, were much greater. So we needed to protect Robinson College. So that's why that decision was made.
One of the benefits of the decision to close is it now opens the door for a new independent school.
2018 we can reapply to open an independent school, opening in 2019. That's a decision of the board that hasn't been decided yet. Obviously at the moment our whole focus is on saving Alesco, or at least NESA providing us with a longer time frame for close down.
The centre is set to close on July 28. But the board is working hard to get an extension to facilitate its students.
If they allowed us to close at the end of the year, that way the students have got a longer period to transition into mainstream school, or some of them might have even finished their schooling.
Patrick Roinke, Southern Cross News.
A house has gone up in flames on Cardiff Road in Port Lincoln today, smoke seen billowing from the roof. Both the CFS and the MFS were called out, with a number of crews responding this afternoon. Jason Kemp filed this report from the scene.
Tim, neighbours reported seeing flames billowing out of the house behind me, where they quickly alerted emergency services who are on the scene at the moment trying to extinguish the fire. The house on Cardiff Road, engulfed by flames, nearby neighbours could only stand back and watch as fire crews rushed into the burning house. The smoke seen from kilometres away, the police quick to cordon off the area. Multiple crews converged on the scene to tackle the blaze. Firefighters were met with thick smoke, forcing them to use oxygen to enter the house. The fierce environment pushing crews and supplies to their limit. Crews then worked to try to prevent it spreading to nearby houses. The heat so severe it ripped a hole through the roof, smoke continuing to pour out. Police moved neighbours away from the scene, concerned the old home might be filled with asbestos. The fire severely damaging the house, crews working frantically to save it, with the investigation now underway to try and work out just what caused the blaze. MFS and CFS crews are continuing to work to try and extinguish the blaze. It's still unsure if the male occupant of the house was at home when the fire started.
Jason Kemp reporting there. New dog and cat laws are coming into effect across SA after they hadn't been updated in over 20 years. Those in charge of animal management in Port Augusta say with the new laws they're encouraging residents to get on top of their dog and cat registrations.
In the new financial year, there's new laws for keeping your four-legged friend. They've been rolled out across the state, increasing fines for unregistered cats and dogs and giving more powers to the local council.
This year, up until the next financial year, the major changes with the Dog and Cat Management Act are the expiations. They've increased quite a great deal.
Fees for unregistered dogs have doubled, going from $80 to $170.
They're all set out in the Act, and the Act hadn't been updated since 1995, and so the penalty, for example, for not registering a dog isn't much more than the cost of registering a dog. and so we needed to increase the penalties so that they'd be an effective deterrent.
With these increases, Port Augusta residents are encouraged to get on top of registering their dog or cat.
They've sort of jumped in one big hit. But, I mean, if people do the right thing with their animals, it's not going to bother them.
This time next year, the Port Augusta Council, along with others, will introduce mandatory microchipping for all dogs and cats and desexing for animals born after July 2018.
The majority of the community will be happy with that, especially here in Port Augusta. We have a really good group of people in our community that are real animal lovers, and with the amount of litters and dogs and strays and dumped animals we get in this town, it's something that's really going to help.
Residents in the region are encouraged to check with their local council for changes. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Eyre Peninsula residents have recounted seeing a brilliant light show over the weekend when a meteor passed through the atmosphere. Witnesses quickly took to social media, describing the unidentified flying object as bright orange, while others say it left a green trail as it tore across the sky.
A celestial spectacle, something out of this world. A flash of bright light tearing across the sky, leaving Port Lincoln locals speechless.
I can't repeat what I said, but I went, amazing, incredible bright light, 2 to 3 seconds, off to the northwest, and it wasn't actually dropping, it just appeared.
Friday night's fireball was seen far across the state, causing widespread mystery. Mr. Colson was out taking snaps when the bright light transformed the sky.
Doing the right thing, I rang the local police, and a patrol turned up, and they'd actually reported that a second patrol had actually seen the same thing. And they don't believe it was a flare.
Instead, it turned out to be a meteor burning up through our atmosphere. Astronomers monitoring space movement tracked the event, capturing the only photo, leaving those from the network stunned.
This one is actually either the brightest or the second brightest thing we've ever seen with our network.
The flash was seen as far south as Adelaide, right up through to Streaky Bay, where residents described it like an earthquake. Scientists believing that's where it touched down, somewhere near the ocean.
It was a really bright one, which means it was big at the top of the atmosphere. All of that energy from burning up is converted into light. That's what people see.
The only other local fireball recorded as bright was captured by NASA in 2010. Local astronomers thrilled at the site.
It's a privilege to be able to see one that's that great.
And stargazers can keep their eyes on the skies. There are 3 meteor showers set to pass over the region in the weeks ahead. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
A man has been caught drink driving over 5 times the legal limit in Port Augusta over the weekend. Police stopped the man on Augusta Terrace at 6:15 on Sunday morning for the breath test when they found he had no licence. The 22-year-old was reported for drink driving and driving without a licence and has had his car impounded. He'll appear in court at a later date. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, a parade through Whyalla kicks off NAIDOC Week celebrations. The details ahead. Welcome back. A Broken Hill teenage driver has been given a traffic infringement notice after rolling his 4x4 yesterday afternoon. The 17-year-old was driving on Cananda Road when police believe he tried to pick up his radio handset and lost control of his car, rolling it multiple times. The driver suffered no serious injuries. Over 20 schools across the Eyre Peninsula were closed today for teachers to hear international motivational speaker Sir John Jones. 400 teachers throughout the region gathered in Port Lincoln for a masterclass to reinvigorate their passion for teaching. The South Australian Area School Leaders Association organised the tour, with Sir John visiting towns in rural SA, including Port Augusta, tomorrow.
He helps teachers connect back to the reason they become teachers in the first place, reignite the passion, but also give them some really good reminders and helpful hints and tips about how to be a really effective teacher.
Port Pirie Council has installed life-saving defibrillators in public spaces around town, and it could be just the start of a much wider rollout. Council now looking at installing more across other rural communities in the hopes it'll be helpful in the event of an emergency.
In Australia, every 10 minutes a person has a heart attack, and of those, 23 people die each day. And Port Pirie Council has installed defibrillators around the community to help improve the chances of survival.
Put at present 5, so in all key council premises.
You can find the defibrillators in the main council building, Visitor Information Centre, the depot, Waste Transfer Station and the Crystal Brook Library. The defibrillators are extremely easy to use and have been designed for people with no experience. They are in reach of the public, which is extremely important to ensure quick access in the event of a medical emergency.
Extremely important because for every minute that a person doesn't have appropriate attention, the chances of survival decreases by 10%.
And the program could roll out further. Council is now looking at installing 2 in Crystal Brook, 1 in Coolunga and 1 at Red Hill.
Council has just approved an opportunity for us to put 4 more defibrillators into the community.
The life-saving equipment will automatically distribute a shock to someone who appears to be having a heart attack. And if the modern technology does detect a heartbeat, it won't shock the patient. So there is no harm in using the defibrillator.
To recognise that they can't do harm with the machine and to take action is really important to save lives.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Whyalla residents gathered today to mark NAIDOC Week with a march through the city this morning. The event also coincided with the launch of a new Welcome to Country film, which will play at the local cinema before each screening.
The crisp morning didn't deter over 200 people who marched through Whyalla in celebration of our Indigenous people and their culture. It marked the beginning of local celebrations for NAIDOC Week, a national event recognising our First Peoples.
Come out and, just pretty much get in together and really celebrate the Aboriginal culture.
The event has steadily grown over the last few years, with organisers working with local schools to promote the week.
The schools have come really on board, community turned out and really strong.
It was also a special day for the local Indigenous community, with the launch of a new Welcome to Country. The film, which will be played before events at the local cinema, showcases a number of locally significant Indigenous sacred spaces.
We are the lawful inhabitants of this peninsula for thousands of generations. We are part of this land on which we stand.
Barry Croft and Alan Collins worked on the film's production and say showcasing Indigenous culture can help build bridges between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities.
It opens the pathway for the Bungle people as a whole and to be recognised that they're the tradition.
It will break down a lot of barriers and there'll be a lot of good cooperation hopefully comes out of it through the community in general.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us when we return after the break. A finals boost for Rapina in Whyalla footy. Results from around the region coming up. Welcome back. A Whyalla TAFE lecturer has taken out a prestigious award at the Catering Institute Awards a fortnight ago. Mondi Carusas won the prestigious President Training Award for his work with local Whyalla hospitality students. He and his students run a popular coffee shop at the TAFE campus each week, with students getting professional experience during their studies. His classes are also hired out to serve and waiter at local events. Mr Carusas has worked at TAFE for 24 years and says his win is not just for himself, but for the entire community.
It actually goes to indicate that it doesn't matter where you've trained or where you work, big or small in this big country, you can be recognised.
4 primary schools in Port Augusta and 1 in Corn have been included in the statewide rollout of 3D printers across SA schools. Those from Port Augusta's Carlton schools say it's a great chance for kids to get ahead in technology.
Kids from Carlton School are doing it like professionals, making their own 3D designs.
And it's new technology, it's new learning for me and it's new learning for the students. With the other teacher, we kind of decided to use some older kids and then some younger kids and bring them together and so collaborate, and because you've got those different thinking coming in, imaginations.
The printer is part of the state government's rollout of 3D printers for the STEM curriculum covering science, technology, engineering and maths.
Well, I guess you're starting them off early, so you're starting them off with that science and that maths and getting interested.
And students are even using the printer for their school shop.
Because we're making tokens, because we have a special shop here and it's called the Dojo Shop.
One student is making a medal and has plans to paint it gold.
This one is taking about an hour. At the moment has 20 to maybe 18 minutes left.
A big step up from paper and ink, these primary school students are using their 3D printer in more than one class, designing figurines and practicing 3D modelling to prepare them for future jobs.
The 3D printing is that it brings in other curriculum areas. So it's not just that digital technologies curriculum that's now out in the Australian curriculum. There's art, there's literacy, there's maths, and you've got the STEM coming through now as well. So, and they like problem solving and...
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Turning to the footy now, and Rapina have given their finals chance a massive boost with a 2-goal win over South Whyalla on Sunday. A 6-goal-1 first term from the Roos would prove the difference as they move within a game of the top 4. John Hunt joins us now, and he was at the match. John, a pretty big win for Rapina.
Yeah, it was, Tim. This was a 4-pointer match, with the winner keeping in touch with the top 4. A fast start from the Roos helped seal a vital win, which has put a big dent in South Whyalla's finals chances. With the win behind them, Rapina had a great first quarter and led by 32 points at the first change. South hit straight back in the second term, scoring 5 straight to 2 points to trail by just 4 at the main change. In a seesawing contest, Rapina would dominate the third term to hold a 31-point lead at the final change. The Demons came home with a wet sail, but it wasn't enough, as the Roos held on by 12 points. An inaccurate 3-7 in the final term will haunt South, who now sit bottom of the ladder. In Whyala's other matches, West hammered Waruna Bay by 20 goals, while 4 from Anthony Malcolm guided North to a 32-point win over Central. In the SGL, West kept Port scoreless in the final term, on their way to a 46-point win. Solis defeated South, and Prop Risdon had a 70-35 win over Central. In Port Lincoln, Waybacks held off Tasman by 5 points. Lincoln South were too good for Boston, while ladder leader Malik Park are now 3 games clear on top, after a 21-point win over second-place Marble Range. Over in Broken Hill, South cemented their place at the top of the table, with a 155-point thumping of West, while North edged Centrals by 9 points. In Northern Areas footy, 5 from Luke Seymour guided Crystal Brook to a 7-goal win over Southern Flinders. Broad Mundura had a 2-goal win over Orroroo, while an 8-goal-2 first half helped Jamestown to a win over BMW. And finally, on the York Peninsula, Central York had a big win over Ardrossan. Kadina defeated Butte 89-31. The Crows had a win over the Eagles, and Munter were too good for Wallaroo. And that's all the footy this week. A week off for everyone next weekend due to the Country Championships in Murray Bridge. And I'll be back tomorrow night with all the other sporting results from across the region. But for now, it's back to you, Tim.
Good stuff. Thank you, John. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll stay with us after the break. A look at the local weather for the week ahead. Welcome back into the weather now, and with the first significant low pressure system for this winter moving across today, generating wet and windy conditions, the SES is urging locals to ensure their homes are prepared for strong winds and rain in some areas over the next few days. They suggest making sure gutters and drains aren't blocked and ensuring anything loose is put away or tied down. And that wet weather did start to pass across today, windy as well, with 17 in Port Augusta and Fort Whyalla. The same today in Port Pirie. It's been wet and windy, 19 in Port Lincoln and a windy 17 in Broken Hill. On the national satellite image, a low south of the state is moving past, generating some wet and windy conditions. Out on the Gulf waters, the winds 220 knots to the west, the seas to 2 metres in southerly, sunrise at 7:25. Some more showers forecast into tomorrow, 17 the top for Port Augusta, Whyalla and for Port Pirie. Showers also for Port Lincoln, 19 degrees the top, and a mainly fine 17 in Broken Hill, even if it is a bit windy still. Then looking at the next few days, showers and 17 for Port Lincoln on Wednesday with 18 for Thursday. Fine though in Cleve, 16 degrees both days. Woodness 17 with showers returning later in the week. Whyalla fine and 16 for Wednesday, then 17 for Thursday. Port Augusta 17 both days and into Friday. Kadina though with showers lingering all week and a top of 16. Port Pirie 16 midweek, then showers clearing into a fine 17, 13 then 14 and wet for Clare this week. Broken Hill sunny 17 degrees on Wednesday and on Thursday as well. And that is the local news for this Monday evening. Hope you had a great weekend. Don't forget, as always, you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email and catch past bulletins online as well. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.